All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're exploring a truly monumental shift in the human story, how our deeply fragmented, scattered human past eventually merged into the single, interconnected global system we all live in today. It's a fascinating journey derived from Yuval Noah Harari's insights into the unification of humankind. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to look at the fragmented world, then the three big forces, money, empires, and religions, before wrapping up with how they forged one human world. Part 1. The fragmented world, isolated human societies. For literally the vast majority of human history, our world wasn't this one big unified place. It was basically a giant puzzle of thousands of completely disconnected human societies. Take Tasmania, for example. They had their own human society completely cut off from everyone else for 12,000 years. The Americas and Afro-Asia, absolutely zero contact. Even massive empires like Rome and China barely knew the other one even existed. But, as we know, over millennia, those isolated bubbles started to crash into each other. They were pushed together by three completely distinct yet incredibly powerful forces. We're talking about money, empires, and universal religions. Let's see exactly how these three acted as the engines for human unification. Moving to part 2, force number 1, money, and how it acts as a system of mutual trust. We usually picture money as, coins or dollar bills, but honestly, money is just anything people agree represents value. Throughout history, that's been cowrie shells, it's been cigarettes in a prison, and today, let's face it, it's mostly just electronic data sitting on computer servers somewhere. The actual physical object doesn't matter nearly as much as the function it's performing. The absolute crux of it is that money runs purely on trust. It is literally the most universal and efficient system of mutual trust ever devised. And the crazy thing, it's not because people actually trust each other. They just trust the money. Because of that, money is remarkably open-minded, way more than language or local laws. Think about it. A Christian and a Muslim who vehemently disagree on the nature of God can still seamlessly trade using the exact same gold coin. A Spanish conquistador and an Aztec merchant, same deal with silver. Money doesn't care who you are, it just works. And by working, it forcibly ties disparate people together. Section 3. Force 2. Empires and merging diverse peoples. Now, an empire isn't just a supersized country. By definition, it's a political organization that rules over many different peoples, each with their own unique culture and territory. And crucially, empires have this insatiable appetite. They just continuously swallow up their neighbors. In doing so, they amalgamate and blend all those diverse, smaller cultures together into a few massive ones. Obviously, empires have a terrible reputation today, and for good reason. They were often engines of brutal exploitation. The Romans literally created deserts and called it peace. But here is the really uncomfortable historical truth. Despite being notoriously brutal, empires have been the dominant political structure for the last 2,500 years. Whether it was the Roman Empire spreading Latin and law, the Arab Empire expanding Islam and vast trade networks, or the Chinese Empire folding a mosaic of tribes into the Han identity, empires were the ultimate vehicle for spreading ideas, people, and tech across huge conquered regions. And this dynamic brilliantly shows how empires didn't just rule people, they fundamentally rewired them. Take this wild historical paradox. Today, modern Spanish citizens actually celebrate the ancient Numantians as heroic martyrs who fought against Roman oppression. But think about how they're celebrating. They honor these ancient heroes while speaking Spanish, which is a language directly descended from Latin. They read about them in Roman script, and they do it while practicing Catholicism, a religion born within the Roman Empire. The empire's victory was so absolute that the conquerors basically adopted the identity of the conquerors. On to Section 4. Force 3. Religions as universal belief systems. So, before 1000 BC, religion was incredibly local. You worshiped the specific spirits of your local river, your mountain, maybe your ancestors. There was absolutely zero point in trying to convert some stranger living on the other side of the world. But that completely flipped with the arrival of universal missionary faiths. Suddenly, belief systems like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam are spreading across entire continents. They were claiming to hold a single universal truth that applied to absolutely everyone, everywhere. What this did was just revolutionary. These universal religions forged shared cross-continental identities. Almost overnight, an Orthodox Christian in Ethiopia suddenly had vastly more in common with a Catholic in Norway than with the pagan neighbor living right down the street. A Buddhist monk could walk from India to China and preach the exact same concepts. This shared belief system basically became a massive superhighway for human connection. And it's totally fascinating when you realize that modern ideologies, things like liberalism, communism, and capitalism, function structurally exactly like those ancient universal religions. They come completely stocked with their own venerated prophets, right? Think Adam Smith or Karl Marx. They have their own holy scriptures, like the Wealth of Nations or Das Kapital. They even have highly structured rituals, democratic elections, May Day parades, or just ringing the opening bell at the stock exchange. If we define a religion as a system of human norms and values founded on a belief in a superhuman order, well then, Soviet communism was no less a religion than Islam, because these modern creeds are comprehensive belief systems that shape how billions of people fundamentally understand the world. They are undeniably the modern era's version of universal religions. They're just further unifying global thought. Which brings us to Section 5. One human world, a single global system. Looking back at this sweeping, incredible timeline of human development, we really have to pause and ask ourselves a massive question. Does human history actually have an overarching direction? Well, the answer is yes. History definitively moves toward unity. But, and this is a huge but, it doesn't move toward unity because it's morally just or inherently good. As we've seen, there's often very little justice in history. Empires were brutally violent, religions caused immense bloodshed, and money definitely corrupted traditions. But history moves toward unity because the undeniable cumulative legacy of those brutal empires, those sweeping faiths, and those relentless global markets, they irrevocably stitched our once isolated worlds together. And that brings us to why we even bother looking back at all this. We study history not to predict the future, but to widen our horizons. We dive into this explainer of our past to truly grasp that our present, unified reality, it's neither natural nor inevitable. The fact that most of us today speak imperial languages like English or Spanish, that we participate in this massive global economy, and organize our societies around universal creeds, all of that is the direct result of those three historical bulldozers. So, now that these immense historical forces of money, empires, and religion have irrevocably merged us into a single global system, I'll leave you with this. What deeply unifying or perhaps deeply dividing force do you think will step up to reshape our global society next? Think about that for a second. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.